How's it going, everybody? It's your boy, and Gonzalo Lira, aka Coach Red Pill, has gone missing. We don't know what's actually happened to him. We don't know if he's dead, we don't know if he's alive, we don't know if he was captured or just went missing, so there's been a lot of rumours circulating. But first, for those of you who may be wondering, yeah, that name rings a bell, Mitch, but who the hell is Gonzalo Lira, aka Coach Red Pill? Well, allow me to give you a quick history lesson, guys, because this man is... he's something else. So Coach Red Pill at first came to fame as a pickup artist. And the pickup artist is a guy who essentially, or a woman even, although they have a different name, a pickup artist is a man who usually teaches other men how to get laid, how to pick up chicks, how to seduce, how to date, how to talk to women, how to know the signs that you're in there and when you're not in there, stuff like that. It's that simple. Now, a lot of PUAs, at least the ones that have a bit more moral fibre to them, they just try to say, look, be confident, work out, stuff like that. The usual stuff that we tell ourselves. Others, however, like the Coach Red Pill variety, will try and prey on these young, insecure men and say, no, what you have to do, you have to be the alpha male, you've got to do this, that, and the other in order to get laid, and rack up that body count and make sure that everybody knows that you're the alpha and you have all that stuff behind you to prove that you're a man, all that crap that, it's just... snake oil, essentially, modern day snake oil. And Coach Red Pill, as I said, was the type of person who would just teach these young men the wrong things in order to get laid. He claimed to be some kind of amazing alpha male who could teach them how to get laid, yet this is a guy who has a sordid history, and there was some rumours, I can't confirm any of this is all alleged, that he left his original home country of Chile for Europe, or it might have been America, because of some certain sexual allegations. Now, at some point, after deciding that pickup artistry and promoting promiscuity and stuff like that wasn't enough, he decided to rebrand and try politics. Now, rather than change the grift to an ideology that might actually suit the previous grift, which is promoting all the stuff I just said before, instead he chose to grift on the right, as if grifting on insecure incels or just autistic people who need help wasn't enough. It was time to grift on the alt-right, the dissident right, or at least the people who would become the dissident right, and all those other people. So he started making videos on the left and right-wing topics and politics and things like that, and he racked up quite a following. He managed to make himself look like he was legitimate, and he had this flashy production quality where he had multiple camera angles and stuff like that, and it looked really professional, and honestly, to me personally, it was a bit cringe having all these different camera angles. 1 or 2 or 3 is fine on YouTube, but like 4 or 5, one of them behind him even, that's stupid. Also, you could see the cameras in the background, which wasn't very professional. Don't show your camera. Then I think he reached his peak during the Kraut drama. He was one of the people that was targeted by Kraut. I don't really know why Coach Red Pill in particular was targeted. He was really not much of a player. In fact, so much so that he had to insert himself into this, because even though his name was listed in the doxing server, the famous doxing server, he wasn't really a target necessarily. Like, the fact he had to try and drum up this rumour and myth that he was doxed when he doxed himself, it's on his Patreon, as it used to be his name and full address. And then, because he inserted himself, other people who didn't like him, but didn't like Kraut either, they did some digging, and, well, yeah, I've got some videos down below in the description that you can watch and just see how much of an idiot this guy is and how sordid his history is and how cringe he is. And he left with his tail between his legs for a long time. He'd come back here and there, but by and large he disappeared. And now he is back. Or rather, he was back. As soon as the Ukraine war happened, next thing I know, he's returned and claims to be living in Ukraine, and he was on Black Pigeon Speaks channel, of all places. So clearly, grifting on the dissident right was something that he could still exploit, because, well, he'd been gone for a while, and there was now a lot of new people. Black Pigeon Speaks should know better. This man is not to be trusted, but it's Black Pigeon Speaks. He's not as smart as he thinks he is, clearly. He claimed to be living in Ukraine. I personally thought he wasn't living in Ukraine, because the guy is such a terrible liar, and such a disingenuous, dishonest person, that I thought he was just in his room in, like, London, whichever other... But it turns out, in fact, he was in Ukraine, because over the past few days, it was reported that the man himself has gone missing. He was due to appear on, of all people's shows, George Galloway's show to talk about Ukraine.
Happy Easter, Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Alleluia. And God saved the life of Gonzalo Lira, from whom we haven't heard since Friday when he agreed to come on the show. The airwaves are crackling with anxiety, even fear, at the sudden silence of the brave, intrepid war correspondent, a filmmaker, author, businessman trapped in Kharkov in the middle of the hell that is the war between NATO and Russia, being fought out over the dead bodies and the ruined buildings of the Ukraine. We still hope to have him on the show. Indeed, he's booked to be our very first guest, and we are trying frantically to reach him right now.
But why was he in Ukraine? Well, he was trying to do the same old things that he was doing before the politics, and that was to take advantage of these young, insecure men, to take advantage of the local women, and to just, be a promiscuous idiot and try to encourage other people to be promiscuous. Now, you see, there are a lot of people on the right who aren't exactly the most pious people. They're not the most monogamous people, at least when it comes to being single, but they don't tell other people to do it. They keep it to themselves. But this guy actively promotes it. I don't know why he's taken seriously by people who consider themselves to be traditionalists, who consider themselves to be moral and upright, when this guy is anything but the sort. A cursory search on Google will show that he isn't. The war hits. So what does he do? He's already not been the best immigrant. He decides to promote Putinist propaganda in the middle of a war zone. So that's why he was on Black Pigeon Speaks' channels and other places, and possibly even George Galloway's show. He's there to promote the Russian side of the war. He believes that they have some kind of righteous cause, I imagine. At least he pretends, because the guy will probably do anything for anybody if it pays well, let's be honest. And he's taking advantage of people who are already sympathetic to the Putinist, Duganist line, because they are insecure, traditional right-wingers who don't know what to do with the West. They are disgusted about the state of the West, and rather than try and figure out creative ways to fix it, rather than try and be loyal to their civilization, at least to the people and the cultures, instead, they're contrarian and decide to back one of our greatest civilizational enemies, China and Russia. So when news hits that the guy may potentially have been killed or has gone missing, well, are you surprised? There are several things that could have happened if he either went missing or died. If he went missing, it could be that the city that he was in got hit very badly, and maybe he decided enough was enough, he needed to get out of there. I think he was in Kharkov originally, I might be wrong. So he decides to get out of this city, but maybe he's forgotten quite a few things, like his phone charger or whatever, so he can't stay in contact with people. So he's just currently somewhere in Ukraine on his own. We don't know. It could be, and this is what has just come in recently, that he was arrested. Some people are claiming that this particular photo that you see here is Gonzalo, and that he was arrested by the Ukrainian authorities because, well, he's an enemy propagandist behind enemy lines, trying to spread the propagandist line that Putin wants, spreading demoralization amongst the troops and the Ukrainian people, trying to get them to give up, essentially, and to try and sell to the West that their real enemy is not Russia, but the West and Zelensky. And yeah, the Western elites currently are our enemies, that is true, but so is Putin, because he is simply another faction of what Steve Bannon calls the party of Davos. We are currently seeing a short little civil war happening in that little world elite as we speak, because they're not as united and full of geniuses that have this one big plan as you think. So if he is alive, that could well be what has happened. He has been arrested by the Ukrainian authorities because, well, he's an enemy agent. That's what he is. This is war. I hate to say it, guys, but freedom of speech, freedom of information, freedom to do whatever you want to do does not exist in a state of war. At least when your country itself is the war zone. This has happened in many countries in many different times. It happened in Britain in World War II. It's happened in France during the Napoleonic Wars and the Revolutionary Wars. It happens everywhere. This is a fact of life. A war needs to be won. And unfortunately, in order to win the war, you have to use tactics that you otherwise would never do in peacetime. You would have to use censorship. You would have to arrest people and stop them from forming political parties that may endanger the war effort. That's what Zelensky was doing. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. But I guess one could say it's a necessary evil. But that's only if he is alive. We don't know if he's alive. If he's dead, well, any number of things could have happened. Some rubble could have fell on his head and killed him. He could have been killed by a Russian bomb or shell or some bullets. He could have been arrested and killed by the Ukrainians, and we've only just heard about this. If they are deciding that firing squads is what they want to do, I don't know if they are. He could have easily have been killed by a Ukrainian who's seen his videos, seen what he promotes when he's not being political, and decided enough is enough, this guy's got to go. But can we really be surprised that he was potentially killed by a Ukrainian because of the things that he's been doing and saying in that country? Again, we shouldn't be. That would be like going to Germany in the middle of World War II and saying that communism is the way forward, not Nazism. You're asking to be shot. And if you promote Russian propaganda and trying to demoralise the Ukrainian side in Ukraine, well, you're only going to be arrested. If he is alive, I imagine he's probably going to use the fact that he was arrested for his own personal gain. In fact, we have a tweet where he was saying, look up all these names. Because of what the things I've been saying, I may not be here in 12 hours or whatever dumb shit. He's trying to present himself as a martyr because he knows what he's doing is risky. But at the same time, there's this arrogance that he'll never get caught. I'm sorry, but that's not how it works in a country in the middle of a war zone where you're actively opposing them. I just find it funny that back in the day, he joined the side that quite rightly pointed out that the West are importing a lot of people that may not be a cultural fit and they don't particularly want to integrate, and that is a bad thing. If we are going to have immigration, as some of them would say, although some of them wouldn't want it at all, you'd rather want people who would contribute, don't you, who would integrate. He is the very person that his allies that he still has on that side don't like. But apparently it's okay when you're trying to demoralise a country that you've now decided is bad because, well, the Western elites don't like Russia, so therefore rather than just dislike both sides equally, which is perfectly reasonable to do, or maybe decide that, well, yeah, maybe going with Putin isn't the best thing strategically. No, instead they go contrarian and full-on support the Duganists and Putinists because Western elite man bad. And this is the guy that they've used as one of their major figureheads in this cultural battle. You're idiots. But anyway, I waffled on far too long about this man. If he is dead, he is dead. If he is alive, he is alive. I don't know. We'll find out. All I'm saying is, not much of a loss either way. See you later, guys.